Welcome to Profit First Nation, the official podcast for entrepreneurs who are operating their businesses in the zone of permanent profitability. I'm Mike Michalowicz, the author of Profit First, and now here's your Profit First Nation guide, Danielle Mulvey.
Hello, my entrepreneurial friends, and welcome to another episode. This is episode 144, so this is an all-in episode. Episodes ending in 4 and 9 are our all-in episodes where we go into talking about, not Mike's next book, even though it's all in, coming out in January 2024, but how you can go all in on being a great leader and building an unstoppable team of 5-star employees. Now, remember, we're going to focus on this in these 2 episodes per every 10 because employees and payroll is probably your biggest expense, especially if you have, 7 or more employees. They are probably the largest expense in your business. And remember, to increase profitability, there's only 2 ways: increase margin and or decrease expenses. So your payroll needs to be producing at least a 3x return. This is so important for you to be profitable in your business. And when you have employees who are 5-star employees, they are producing a 3x return on payroll. 1, 2, 3-star employees, average, ho-hum, or worse employees tend to be a little entitled. They're collecting a paycheck. They're not necessarily producing that 3x return on payroll. And so today we're going to talk about some strategies on how you can correct the errors of a mishire. If you've had any mishires in the past, we know from research that approximately every 3 out of 4 hires in a business is right now trending at a mishire. So most businesses have a 75% mishire rate. When you employ going all in on recruiting, hiring, retaining your employees, and you never settle for less than 5-star employees, and maybe even using the 5-star employee hiring system, then you will only have a 10% mishire rate. So we're going to talk about strategies in these episodes ending in 4 and 9 about how to be a 5-star employer, how to recruit, hire, and retain 5-star employees so that you go from a 75% mishire rate to just a 10% mishire rate. And one way to do that is to right now kind of stop everything and pull out a spreadsheet. And actually, we will have a template for you at profitfirstnation.com/144. So profitfirstnation.com/144 will have this episode's resource. And what you're going to do is you're going to either use that resource or create your own spreadsheet. The first column is you're going to put your former employees. You're going to list them that have left the company, whether on good terms or bad terms or terms. You're going to list them in that first column. And I would recommend going back at least 2 years of people who are no longer with your organization. We like to call them alumni. And then I want you to, in the next column, put down what their hire date was. And then I want you to put their term date in that third column. When did they leave the organization? And then what was the role in the fourth column? And in the fifth column, what was the reason for leaving? And in this next column, you're going to put who they reported to or who their supervisor was. And then in the next column, you're going to put, you're going to look at their resume that they had submitted for the job. and you're going to look at that resume again. And, that was probably the only single piece of information that you had for that candidate besides them when you were evaluating them. So go look at that resume. And, do you see any red flags in that resume that, you kind of maybe ignored, brushed under the rug, really didn't pay attention to? And put what those resume red flags are in that column. And then in the final column, what were other things about the person just in general that you found to not be a fit for your organization? Or maybe, it's an opportunity for, the person was a good person, but they left because something could be better in your organization, and they kind of gave you some feedback or such. All right. So those are the columns, and you're going to dive into this. I would say, to be honest, this should only take, honestly, an hour to do, right? Because at worst, you're going to go into your payroll system, and that's where you're going to find their hire date and their term date. Boom, boom, boom. That should take no more than 10 minutes, even if you had 10 employees. Couple clicks of the button. And then, you should be able to just do a search to find their resumes in your emails or however people are applying. And then you're honestly not going to have to think too hard. You'll look at each resume and it'll probably take you 3 minutes to find those glaring red flags that were probably invisible the first time that you were wanting to hire that candidate. And then just take a couple more minutes to reflect on that candidate, reflect on what they were like in the office, and what were things that just didn't work out either for the candidate in your situation or for you having that candidate in that situation. And so we're going to talk through some examples of some things that, again, could be red flags and such, and why someone would leave. So I'm going to kind of share some examples, real life examples. We did this with a member of the All-In program and the 5-star hiring system, and kind of looking back before we went forward on the kind of candidates that they were sorry to lose, and the candidates that they were happy to lose, which would give us a good sense of how to establish and build and help them find the ideal candidates, the 5-star candidates going forward, and never settle for these people that were mishires. All right. So the first person, we're going to call her Lisa. So what's interesting about Lisa's resume, when we looked at Lisa's resume, she had multiple present jobs. So she was working multiple jobs in the present, and she was going to trade this job for or one of those present jobs for this job, and but she was going to keep some of the other ones and such. So the issue with that is this was a full-time position, and then she was going to keep these other part-time positions. So one thing about that is it's hard to judge if someone always has like one foot somewhere else. They're not going to be totally vested if you're not, kind of like their primary employer or, their only employer is ideal. You really kind of want to avoid people that have multiple jobs, especially at higher levels in an organization. Obviously, if you run a restaurant, that's going to be normal that people have multiple jobs, et cetera. But in terms of a professional or service setting, you're going to want someone to have really just one job so that they can be focused and all in on your organization. So the other interesting thing about this candidate was they all of their prior positions were local to where they lived, including their present positions, meaning they were within 5 miles of where they lived. And this position was 40 miles away from where they lived. So now they were going to have a commute. And they said that it was brought up in the interview, and they said, no. I love to drive. I love being in my car. Not a big deal. I'm up for it and such. Well, this individual lasted 2 months in the position. And guess why they left the position? They left the position because the drive was too long, right? Okay. Well, then this candidate totally lied to you. And people will do that. They think it's not a big deal, but then when they start doing it every day, and in this case every day for 2 months, if they're not already doing it, they're probably not going to like doing something so different, something that takes more time out of their day, takes more time away from their personal time and their family. So you have to be really, really cognizant. I learned this too when we were hiring candidates for when we were in office for our claims exam firm in Carmel, Indiana, which is a northern suburb of Indianapolis. I was a little bit naive and hired some candidates who, said, oh, no problem. Oh, yeah, I've worked there near there in the past. I wasn't so familiar with the geography and the different towns and where they were and such. So I tended to believe them. And truth be told, I got wise pretty quickly and started Googling, if I wasn't familiar where the town was, how far it was from Carmel, Indiana, where our offices were, where we were in office at the time. And really, kind of evaluated and filtered out candidates that were just too far and didn't make sense. And while you want to believe a candidate doesn't want to be rejected. So they're going to tend to say what you want to hear. And the clear thing is, oh yeah, no problem. I can do that commute. And maybe they genuinely think that they can, but let's be honest, especially in a large metro area, this isn't the only job. I mean, if the person lives in a rural, very rural area and there's little to no opportunity, well, of course, they're going to have to drive anywhere for a job. But in this case, this person, lived in a metropolitan area and was going to drive 40 miles to another metropolitan area for what would be the same pay, the same type of job, et cetera. So it just really made no sense that they were trying to make this leap 40 miles away when there should have been plenty of opportunity where they lived. So really, let's be honest about this, and let's, do a little bit of research and understanding and set it up for success. And again, if the person says, oh, we're going to move there. Oh yeah, we're planning on moving. Just don't bother. There are plenty of fish in the sea. You may just have to cast a wider net to catch the right fish than what you're currently casting in terms of a net. But those people are out there, and you want to get, just as many filters in as you can to set you up for success and ensure that this person is a true 5-star candidate. And I'm going to be honest, a 5-star candidate doesn't live an exorbitant amount away from where you are, or from where they're currently working to where they live. Now, if this individual was already working in the metro area that was 40 miles away from their house and had experience and jobs in that area, then that would be fine, because they've already proven that the commute is fine. They've already worked at this other firm for 5, 7, 10 years. And, for whatever reason, they're looking for a change. And it's sort of like, for the commute is a lateral. It's the same distance. So that's okay. And that works out. But if there's a big change in the candidate's current behavior in terms of where they are now and where you need them to be, then that's a red flag. All right. Okay. Then we had, a candidate here when we did this alumni analysis of this one member's firm, and they didn't like all their clients. and they wanted to work fully remote. So that's a bit of a problem. So with individuals today, we've got people that got a taste of working from home thanks to COVID, and then there's people that have been very comfortable with it. We went fully remote with our claims exam firm. With our construction material supply business, we were remote for a bit during COVID. And then when we came back into the office, our employees were like, thank you, because, they really enjoyed the camaraderie, the collaboration. It just made things better. And, it just was, not as conducive to work as in their homes, maybe, as well, with their families working from home too. So you really have to understand, this candidate had been working remote and then took a job that was hybrid. And, let's see how long here. So for about, they stuck it out for, almost 2 years, but kind of during that COVID time. And so they had worked remotely, it looks like, during COVID in 2020. They joined this firm in 2021. They left this firm in 2023 because they wanted to go back to fully remote. So you got to really watch this too. I think people think, okay, I can change them. Yeah, this job is hybrid, but I'm going to do such a bang up job and I'm so good at what I do and I produce results that I can get them to change and make me fully remote. And, in this case, I know this owner, and there's no way this owner would allow 100% remote work. And that was pretty clear. So, but when we looked back at this candidate in 2020, they had been fully remote and they hadn't gone back into an office environment or a hybrid environment. They were going from fully remote to hybrid and clearly had the intention of, no, I can take this hybrid and make it fully remote. So again, kind of a red flag is people who've been working fully remote likely want to stay fully remote. It definitely has its perks. So be wary of that. You want to trade like for like. It could even go the other way too. Someone who's working in office, might not actually end up being successful in working from home. So be cognizant of, again, how much is the candidate having to change their behavior, change where they're working, change their commute, etc. And that's where, it's hard to tell if that will fully stick if they have to make that change. So you want to keep the candidate in kind of like a like situation. They were working hybrid, you're offering hybrid. They were working 100% remote, and you're allowing them to work 100% remote. Okay. So then we move on to the next candidate. And this individual, let's see, how long did this individual last? This was Kevin, and this person was with them for just shy of 2 months. And they were let go because of poor work. And so what it looks like here was they failed to test this individual. And so that's why you need to have skills tests in your hiring gauntlet. And you also need to have a shadow day. The shadow day should be a paid shadow day. It's 4 to 6 hours. If it's a remote candidate, it's a remote shadow day. If it's an in-person candidate, it's an in-person shadow day. Maybe throw in some lunch there too, and some casual time with the team and getting to know each other. But the shadow day really kind of tells you is the proof in the pudding. And so you want to design the shadow day, and you want to include stresses in the shadow day that could happen in your business and often happen in your business. So you kind of want to design the shadow day to truly test the candidate, maybe on your office's not best kind of days. And you want to give them assignments while they're doing their shadow day and give them a time frame to complete the assignment and see what the results are of that assignment. And then we're going to be able to see, well, do they do good work or do they do poor work? Set the expectation. What we've done sometimes in the past is really good is we'll include them in on a client call and we'll say, we need you to take notes on this client call. And then after the client call, we're going to give you 15 minutes and this computer to draft a recap email for everyone that was on the call. So you want to, see how they work, the quality of their work, and how efficiently and quickly they do it. So that would have helped here with Kevin. So one other interesting thing is when I looked at this spreadsheet, let's see, there was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were about 10 people on this spreadsheet that we analyzed of alumni, former employees. Some left on their own, some were let go. But the interesting thing is 5 out of the 10 reported to one supervisor, and the other ones, no one else reported. There were no more than 2 employees reporting to any other supervisor on the list. So half of the people left that reported to a particular supervisor. So there's a red flag right there. And this is kind of known. This owner and I have had discussions about the situation, and interestingly, now it's kind of like, well, do you want one person and never be able to keep someone else? And the interesting thing about this supervisor is the people that work for her really have very short tenures too, which is also telling of the situation. So, it can go both ways, which is why we had that supervisor column and who they report to and stuff, because that could present, an issue that needs to be addressed in your organization as well. It might not be the employees or the candidate. It might be the person who's already been there and in a supervisor role. So let's see. When we looked at some of the resumes, some of the other resume red flags that kind of reared their head, we talked about the one where the individual, all their prior work experience was very local to where they lived, and this position was a big commute for them. Another resume red flag is sort of the type of organization the person is currently working for, or where their history is of they're working for, compared to like where your organization is. So in one case, there was an individual who worked for such an elite, well-known institution that working for a firm that is, a successful and profitable and wonderful small business, that person sort of lost their ooh-ah factor when people say, oh, where are you now? And they would say, well, I'm with Acme. And people are like, oh, you went from ooh la la, wow, 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 blue chip to Acme? Oh, okay. So you really need to be cognizant too, again, like how much of a move is this person making? This person went from, working at really like a very well-known, prestigious company to a great company that no one knows about and such. And so really what kind of got to this person was they didn't have that, I'll call it ooh la la factor, but they didn't have that prestige anymore associated with their place of employment. And so, again, you want to be cognizant of where they're coming from and where you are. I tend to like people that, when they work for us, it's a step up to them and it's not considered a step down. So that is a very important thing to consider in your candidates. The other interesting thing is that, when we looked at these candidates and they were applying for bookkeeper positions, I was sort of like, so where's the bookkeeping experience on this resume? They had made several administrative assistant hires and hired them as bookkeepers. And one candidate in particular, the underneath their name on their resume, it said administrative assistant. Everything was them working as an administrative assistant. All of the skills that they listed, data entry, effective time management, team player, customer service, tech savvy, Microsoft Office, effective communicator, scheduling software, Google Suite, CRM, critical thinking and problem solving, email automation software. I think I named them all. Did you hear any QuickBooks? Did you hear any accounting? Did you hear any bookkeeping? So, again, this was a case of an individual who said, oh yeah, I did a little of that, but it wasn't a prominent enough skill. They listed 15 skills on their resume and none of them had to do with accounting or bookkeeping. Also, too, would have been figured out if you gave this person a bookkeeping or accounting test as well. So it's, again, really important to, number one, does their experience commensurate with what you need for the role? Are you giving them a skills test to double check that even if they said it on the resume, that it's actually a reality? And, I'm not saying that someone has to have experience for the role, especially if it's an entry-level position, especially if you want blank slates. I love blank slates. I love hiring a blank slate and seeing people that have the aptitude, et cetera. And, what kind of experience I'm looking for might not be the literal experience of what I'm hiring for. So, for example, for our claims examiners, we hire recent college graduates with a math degree. That's it. If they have a math degree, I know they know how to problem solve. I know they love numbers. And that's what I need to teach them. I don't say I'm hiring a claims examiner because, number one, I don't want people with prior claims experience because their prior claims experience is useless to us. And then they're going to be hung up on how they used to do it and how we do it. And I'm not going to undo that programming. And so that's why I say I'm looking for a recent college graduate with a math major. And that is what we get. And, magically they go through our hiring gauntlet. They take the assessment. They score 70% or higher. They move through our process and system. And when we hire them, we've never had anyone not complete training. We've never had anyone not reach their authorization levels on time. We end up with happy employees who, work for us for as long as they want until they, move up in the ranks in promotion and take another role within the company at a higher level. The last example I want to talk about is, we talked about this before on the prior red flag resume episode, but this is on the spreadsheet, so I'm going to reiterate it here, and that is, depending upon your organization, if your organization is very tech savvy and you are a near paperless office and you have no less than 3 to 4 sort of apps or platforms that are really the kind of the engine underneath your business, then you have no business hiring someone who has been out of the workforce for 4, 5 or more years. All right. In this case, we had an individual going for a bookkeeping position who had been out of the business world for 22 years. Okay. 22 years. And so things were a lot different 22 years ago when it came to bookkeeping and accounting and electronic file records management and passwords and things like that and stuff. And, this person was quickly overwhelmed in a very short order. And so, this is a mishire. So you want to have people, if you are very tech savvy, you have lots of platforms, you have specific ways of doing things, you need to, make sure that and test for this individual and do it on a shadow day that they can catch on quickly. And they love, how everything is so organized in these electronic file cabinets. And you've got these Trellos and you've got Dropbox and you've got Microsoft SharePoint and your clients' apps and everything. Really, really, really test for that because again, if the sophistication of where they're coming from is pretty low from a technology standpoint, and your firm is like, a firm that has a lot of apps and a lot of things buzzing in the background to make you guys successful, that is a big leap. And that is going to be very impossible for someone to make, or very unlikely for someone to make. So you want to, again, find people that love apps and love everything going on and have had experience with, ideally some of those apps as well. So that is, my challenge to you, to go back and, use the spreadsheet at profitfirstnation.com/144 and do an analysis of your alumni, all of your prior hires who are no longer with you for the last 2 years, and spend an hour and now you have great knowledge and information to, not make the same mistake, not make another mishire for the same reasons. And, that brings me to my favorite quote. And that is Albert Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So success and failures leave clues. And that's why going back and looking at the failures when it came to hiring and why people are no longer with you will give you some good clues that you can take and use as opportunities going forward, so that you reduce your mishire rate, right? We want to go from a 75, 50% mishire rate to a 10% mishire rate. And we will guide you along on these episodes ending in 4 and 9. And let's go all in.
Thanks for tuning in to the Profit First Nation podcast. We hope you found today's episode valuable and that it's inspired you to take action towards achieving permanent profitability in your business. If you want to learn more about how to implement Profit First in your business and connect with a community of like-minded entrepreneurs, be sure to visit us at profitfirstnation.com to download our how-to guides and resources. Remember, permanent profitability is within your reach, and we're here to support you every step of the way. So let's do Profit First right together.
Profit First Nation website, related podcasts, and videos are provided for general information purposes only and do not constitute accounting, legal, tax, or other professional advice. Visitors should not act upon the content or information found here without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional.